shame. Noah is struggling where his voice is concerned. But hey, everybody, welcome to yet another episode of On the Table. This is episode 15.
Yeah.
My name is Tepi.
I'm DJ Black Velvet.
Church girl is here.
We're not rolling alone today. We're rolling with the formidable Ghanaian. Should we see you as a Ghanaian right now because you're living there?
I'm actually half Ghanaian.
There we go.
Oh,
That's 100%
yes.
even better. We've obviously in partnership with Via Health. This is our fifth episode with them. Fourth, fifth, 100%? 100? Third episode.
Yeah, it's off.
Oh, I'm projecting. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Via Health. We've got LINDI R, one of my favorite sexual health coaches. I love her with all my heart. Such a liberal, such an open young lady. How you doing?
I'm good, in great spirits, loving your guys' energy.
Thank you for being in the country just for us.
Listen.
You left your man, you left your speciality all for us.
I did, but I'm sure it'll be worth
And
it.
we definitely appreciate it. We're having this episode and we're shooting this episode all the way at Red Cherry Studios. Shout out to you guys for always hosting us. And of course, Via Health, every time we start with the conversation cards. All right. Follow them. This is on Instagram and on all social media platforms, in fact. ViaHealth.za. Via Health. There we go. Then you can find them there. And of course, you'll see the conversation cards and what they're about. They're not really selling them, but I feel like
They should.
I kept on saying
They should.
they should sell them because I've started using them. I've used them in the bedroom. And they really did open up the communication. And yes, we were having a little, moments to ourselves. And as always, this is how we start. When we with Via Health, we start with conversation cards. So who wants to start?
So is this me asking you guys?
Anyone you want to ask?
Okay. Tepi,
Oh,
since you've already well finessed in this, how do you know when you are in love?
Yo. Yeah. Yeah. How do you know?
can I tell you guys, and I hope he doesn't watch this, I'm actually starting to feel like I am in love. And guys, hold me back.
T-bang.
Take me out of the shackles of hell. I think now, hey, and let me tell you why. It's things like, first thing when I wake up, I'm thinking of this nigga. Right? In my sleep, whether I'm conscious or not, I'm thinking of this nigga. Yo, guys. Yo! Somebody call my mother. And also, I mean, today I called him and I said, yo, Joe, I miss you, brah. That's when you know that. I said, I miss you, brah. I need to see you, even if it's just, we have Thursdays, and Thursdays are Tepi Thursdays, where he'll...
Tepi Thursday.
You got your own day, girl.
Wait, what happened?
So how can I not fall in love on that basis? So that's how I know. I think I know because I'm literally, no matter what it is that he does, yes, it definitely will upset me, but I just think of him constantly. I want to be around him all the time. We have such a great relationship together, and this is outside of whether or not we're fucking, but just generally, he's such a lovely individual. I've enjoyed his company for many years. I still enjoy his company even now. We can sit and just talk about absolutely nothing, and it's my favorite time of the day.
Love that.
Yo,
Guys, Tepi's in love.
Run away.
Maras Joel. Anyway, next.
But now. I mesh is
Yeah, it's what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Mash has always been there. He's a constant confidant. Next question, please.
Next question.
Okay.
Anyone asking?
Let's ask our guest. How do you prioritize your sexual health? If so, how? Okay, I definitely do. And I think it's more common than people would like to think, but I focus on my mental health first. I think if I am in a good space, it translates in the bedroom, and when I'm not in a good space, it translates too. So I try and make sure that everything outside of the bedroom is in good condition, so that the rest of it is easy to flow. For example, conflict resolution outside of the bedroom makes me feel more comfortable being able to communicate in the bedroom because I know how we resolve things. So I definitely prioritize that. And then, the common basics like, just using soap or just using water rather, and taking a probiotic, eating yogurt, things like that. So Yeah, I think it varies for different people,
Yeah.
and it will look different for different people. But it's definitely a top priority for me because I've also experienced a lot of negativity with regards to my sexual health because I have neglected it. So I know better.
I'm so glad we're going to be talking about that today. Khomotso?
Oh. Okay. Nolu. How do you bring fun into your intimate moments?
Why me, Lord?
Let's take the blowjob away from this.
Please.
I'm
Please.
so glad Lindy is here today.
away.
No,
Holy Spirit,
This is not
activate.
the conversation we
This
are having
is the
today.
conversation.
The conversation we are having today is how do I bring fun into my intimate space?
Moments.
Who So generally we are people who enjoy each other's company and we laugh a lot. But we also try not to. I don't know if there's a specific way that I do it. I've actually never thought about it, to be honest, until I was asked now. But as I think alluding to what Ulinde was just saying, if you're fine outside of the bedroom, it then communicates better when you are in that intimate moment. But also because we're people who like to laugh. So even if certain things that shouldn't happen in the bedroom, we laugh about it. Nobody feels embarrassed. Nobody feels like we can't do it again.
Like farting during dog style.
Even I was shocked, guys.
Nobody expected
Shocked by what, guys?
I mean, it's not uncommon. It was just
Oh,
a
it
shock in
happens.
this moment.
Yeah. No, she throws things like that. So get used to it.
It's going to be an interesting hour for you.
But yeah, so I think the fact that we're able to laugh about certain things makes it easy even for us to be able to communicate sexually. Should one have a certain desire, want to experiment a certain thing, it's like, no, dog, what are you trying to do to me? When are you doing it? But yeah, so
Okay.
That's a special thing you guys have going there, especially as a married couple. I think that's a special thing. There's a lot of people who are struggling with that kind of intimacy and letting go, even in just dating. There's a card I have, but I want to ask both of you. And I actually initially wanted to ask Lindy because of what she does for a living. But also, I know you're a wild card. So I want to ask you this. What would you like to learn about your body that you don't already know?
Okay. I don't know if it's a problem or it's a good thing. Sometimes uba wete. You know what I mean? When you're like that wet, you're not even comfortable. You want to wipe before you guys get into it. Is that normal? I would like to know.
It is normal, but it can, unless it's decreasing your sensitivity, then it shouldn't be a problem.
No, my sensitivity.
So then it's not a problem.
Oh, okay.
And also unless it's, I mean, most of the time men don't really care. Like wetness, in fact, they encourage it. So and it's not a problem.
Okay.
Lindy, let's
Sorted.
take it to you. And I wanted to ask you this because I know how self-aware you are of your body, but there must be something you'd really like to know about your body that you don't already know.
I think it is. I think maybe I'm the wild card. So I really want to fully and comfortably be fisted, and
Whoa.
I want to understand.
musified.
Yeah.
Hey, it's been there before Samizi, and we'll be there even after Samizi.
I want to understand how obviously it can expand for when you're having a child, but for as far as it's gone for me, and I've attempted it many a time, it feels like my bones are shifting. So I want to know what the actual physiological
Pleasure.
Not the pleasure. I mean, I understand the pleasure. And I guess that's, yeah, there is. There is. I think it's also the audacity. It's a very psychological thing. Like you're putting a whole male fist inside my vagina. I also like being fingered. So for me, it's like the more the better. And it's literally gotten to like halfway through the palm, but never
The whole hand.
Yeah. So I just want to know physiologically how the body works to accommodate that in that moment. Obviously, when you're pregnant, your hips shift to give
Accommodate
birth.
baby, yeah.
But in a sexual scenario, why is it that my body can allow a male fist inside me?
Don't you think then your muscles are relaxed in that sense that literally...
Yeah, but like to be relaxed to the point where it completely changes form to accommodate a fist. It's not a muscle anymore. There's the vaginal canal that shifts, that changes. So for me, I'm just trying to understand how that works.
Well, look, if it's a South African men's fist, it can go.
Wow.
Small fingers, small hands. Thank you so much, Sylvia. You already hate me, it's fine. Just join the wagon.
I'm loving this
Thank you so much. These are, of course, the conversation cards, and these are all from Via Health. Thank you. They gave them to us. We really, really love them. We use them. In fact, we'll use them in most episodes to start the conversation. I think it's a great conversation starter.
Yeah.
Today, we're talking sexual pleasure. And how better to have this conversation than to have Lindy R in the studio to have a conversation with us. Not only does she explore it herself, but also she's professional in speaking about it. I've had you on my podcast a few times, and I love the conversations that we have. They're not only insightful, but I love the fact that you're also trying them as well, which makes it that much more humanized for me, right?
Yeah.
And I think that makes it that much more special. Let's talk about sexual pleasure, ladies. We all want to experience it, and we all want to give it, right? Because what's the point of having sex if the next person's not enjoying it, vice versa? But the sad thing about sex and how we've been conditioned where sex is concerned is that the sex and the pleasure is only for the man.
It is.
And I will not lie, there are days where I do that as well, where I take away my sexual pleasure and I give it to the next person. Look, it varies, right? Because on some days, it's because I enjoy watching him have fun that I will have fun.
And that's pleasure in itself.
And that's pleasure in
Yeah.
itself. But also on other days, I just feel like I'm just trying to get it over and done with.
that happens quite often.
And that's upsetting. Let's open up the table, ladies. Why is our sexual health so dependent on the man and we just can't immerse ourselves in it?
Well, it's because as women, we get policed. Everything that we do, how our bodies are, who we engage with, is policed by the man. And more so when you express yourself sexually, the perception is that you're loose or easy. So we have been conditioned to think that if we are that way, even in a space where it's intimate and should be comfortable or a safe space, it's hard to recondition that where you are now thinking, if it doesn't matter, like my pleasure should come first. Because even also growing up, women are there for procreation. Men are there for pleasure, so it's very hard to kind of adjust your mind to feel like, you know what, it's okay for me to experience pleasure and for the focus to be on me.
Ladies, how do you feel about that? Do you almost feel like you give yourselves sexually and not necessarily think about yourself where sex is concerned? Or where sexual
Definitely.
pleasure is concerned?
Definitely. I've experienced that before. But lucky me, I've learned to sort of apply myself to understand that sometimes it's not about him, it's about me. And if he doesn't want to participate or for whatever reason he's not available, Pinky is here for me. If for whatever reason he's not available.
I'm wondering why the attitude now when she's thinking.
Is she feeling uncomfortable?
I was like, what is she whipping out?
So she's fixing her pants.
It's always there.
And your man is here, right?
Yeah.
I actually wish you could just
guys.
grab a mic, even if it's far.
Even out of it.
I just wanted to
No,
ask
we just want to
if
hear
it's a...
from him. Baby, please come grab a mic.
Don't come.
Don't come.
Baby, don't come.
Baby, grab a mic for the sake. It's for the
only time you're
chillers.
asking him to not come.
Don't come.
For the sake of the chillers, baby, please grab a mic.
Baby, I got grab a mic.
He wants to. He will.
No, but if his girlfriend is saying no,
No, he wants
later
to.
on.
Church girl.
It's not gonna cause problems.
okay, it's fine, but he doesn't mind the toy.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't, but he has expressed that he doesn't want to feel like he's in competition with the toy. Which is very important, which I don't think he's in competition with the toy. We want the flesh, guys. This doesn't...
100%.
Quick one before we even go on the
Okay.
toy thing, because I've got a A little bug to pick there.
So I've got a different view, right? I know what you guys are saying and how sex has been taught to us that we're meant to pleasure the man, but because of the way I grew up in my teachings and now being married, my whole understanding and when I went through premarital counseling was, I'm there for him, he's here for me. So I pleasure him, he pleasures me. It's a two-way for us.
Okay.
But did you have that knowledge prior to the premarital counseling? Did you feel that you could express that comfortably without someone counseling you to do so?
Because we've always been comfortable with each other and we've been together for so long and we've spoken about many things prior to being in a sexual relationship, we were comfortable.
I love that. These are the conversations that we're having on this platform, and these are the conversations that Via Health also has on their platform. So you can definitely go there. This is on TikTok. This is also, when you talk about the brand ambassadors as well, they have these conversations. They're open and it's a safe space. Talking about a safe space, can we talk about toys? And the conversation that men have that they don't like toys.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a room full of men, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 men. Can you please raise your hands up if you have issues with toys, with sexual toys? None of them, but they lie.
Yeah, they're lying.
They're lying because they won't say it out loud. And there's this perception that sexual toys are competing with them. Can we please debunk that? And I love that we're going to do... Oh, have you ever used a sex toy before?
No.
Do you want to answer that for yourself? Do you want to answer that for yourself? Because I feel like we've had this conversation before.
It's a no. But we've used sexual toys before.
Okay.
So let's debunk that for the gents and maybe even explain it to them when we talk about the toys. And by the way, toys are not only for women. They are also toys for men.
Yes.
I want to debunk it, but I think women are probably the biggest contributors to why men feel that way.
Tell us why.
Because women like to emasculate men in positions where they feel they need to get power. So even saying you have a small dick after a relationship is ended, that's not something you were complaining about in the first place. That's not something you're trying to work around, but you want him to feel small. So you'll use it against him. And in most instances, women do the same with toys. So it's okay if he doesn't want to, I got this. So of course he's going to feel like it's a replacement.
Yeah.
Because that's the only other competition.
But how else then am I supposed to pleasure myself if you don't want to give it?
Nothing wrong with pleasuring yourself and using that as an alternative. But in letting the man know that it is because he's not giving.
But it's okay.
Then it makes him feel like he's not allowed to not want to. And it's unfair
I
when...
feel like
that would have been my question as well. Why is it okay for us to not feel like having sex, but it's not okay for men to not feel like not having sex?
Because women really suck with rejection.
Can I tell you, when I started gaining an interest in toys, in sexual toys, I started watching porn, obviously, and then you would see these solo videos of women pleasuring themselves. So I wanted to know, how does this thing feel like? What is it? I took it upon myself with a colleague of mine during lunch hour. We went to an adult store. We perused around. I identified something I wanted to try, and that's how I got to explore sexual toys. It had nothing to do with whether my man wanted to pleasure me at the time or not. It was purely me wanting to find out what else can my body take.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think a good way to also make them feel like it's not something that is replacing them is by involving them.
But they don't want to.
They don't.
They don't. I
That's
remember
very
this one time. An ex of mine. I gonna king when you handcuff. Yo.
Yeah, but that's different. That's different too. I think that's an accessory rather than a toy, because that is also restricting. So if you feel like you don't like a loss of control or power, then that might not be for you. So I don't ever want to be tied up, but I see the benefit for maybe others.
So would you say some men, not all of them, the reason they don't like sexual toys, it's not just because they are in competition with them, but mostly because they don't want to feel like they are not in control of your pleasure.
100%. So things like role play or mutual masturbation can definitely encourage a man to be like, okay, this is making you feel so good. But if he's the one controlling it or playing around with your clitoris and controlling the vibrations, that's involving the man into the space and will also make him realize the benefits there of it. So also things like cock rings, that is for the man's pleasure as well as the woman's pleasure, especially a vibrating, well, is there any non-vibrating cock ring? But yeah, so
once it will be vibrating and you can't feel a thing.
So, you know, trying to look for toys that are like incorporating both man and woman will make them realize the benefit and how it can actually enhance the environment in the bedroom and why they should want to do it. I think it's just a lack of exposure and education around it, because a lot of things are centered around the woman's pleasure when it comes to sex toys. But there are toys out there for men too, but do they know about it? And where would you learn something like that?
Of course they do. I feel like they don't want to learn about it. Gents, you know that there's sex toys available for you, right, at sex shops? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Do you almost feel, and I ask this without judgment at all, you know there's the fake vaginas? Mm-hmm. Would you guys ever use them? Do you feel embarrassed even using them? There's a nod at the back, Aya? Why? Why wouldn't you use it, Aya? You don't need to. But you do masturbate? Of course you're going to say that. Ugh. The two gents there? Because that's also a beautiful accessory. And I know someone who has one. And they use it quite frequently. They actually live in another country. And they're just like, look, there's no type of mine here. And masturbation I got all masturbated out, basically. I needed something that almost made me feel like I am doing the exact same thing. You know what I mean? And they got, he calls it Rosie. And he got Rosie.
Pocket pussy.
Pocket pussy. Okay.
Yay.
And he lubricates it and Bob's his uncle and he has fun. And guess what? He also comes in it, gents. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't get pregnant.
I mean, is that not the end goal?
And it doesn't get pregnant. It doesn't get pregnant.
And well, namarabing.
I mean, if that's not incentive enough.
Well, then what is? What is? But now let's talk about sexual toys where we are concerned as ladies and not even with a partner, because sexual pleasure, like you said, it's very, very diverse. And I think a big part of it is also just learning to let go of ourselves and just learning to enjoy ourselves. And I think for me especially, I mean, we had this chat, Lindy, on the podcast, which I had said to you, I lost my orgasm. But I lost my orgasm in having sex with the next person. But when I'm pleasuring myself, oh my God, I am in heaven. Yeah. And a lot of that happens. There are many women who've had sex and have never had an orgasm. But when it comes to pleasuring themselves, goodness me.
So I'm the complete opposite. I don't like masturbation because I struggle to get my imagination to a point where it feels real. I know it's my hand, I get bored, I get distracted, and I'm just like, oh, okay, try a toy, and I'm like, this is a phallic object, it's not the real thing. Yeah. And there's a lot of other factors that contribute to my sexual experience outside of just what my vagina is feeling. So for me, it's the complete opposite, but I do understand that when you're with another person, there's also a lot of other contributing factors that may speak to how you engage with that person. Past sexual trauma, religion, cultural, like your upbringing. Those things will subconsciously play in your head as to what the person's going to think of you, how they'll perceive you, even if it's not at the forefront of your mind. So it's a lot easier to just let go and relax when you're by yourself, because you're not really conscious of the next person. You're not considerate of the next person's feelings or perceptions of you. So I think that's why people are able to kind of just let go by themselves. But then it also works where I'm kind of just like, I'm by myself. I need another energy to feed off. So
really?
Yeah.
Ladies, do you have the same experience where
I can't
self-pleasure is different?
I can't masturbate without watching porn. I have to see it. I have to see. Otherwise, if I imagine it in my head alone, it does nothing to me.
Really? Nolu?
I think I've created a mind block now around pleasuring myself. I don't think about it. I don't yearn for it. I'm not missing out.
Yeah. I don't even get horny. Like
Like-
I have to physically be touched for me to be like, wow, okay, I need it.
Okay, for me it's not that hectic. No, when I feel the need, I'll feel like, okay, no, like I miss my man, but I never ever think of a toy or pleasuring myself in any
Then I
way.
help myself by not getting you a toy.
No, I was gonna try it out because I've never used it. I was gonna try it out, but also mentally, I feel like we've had also partly this conversation. I think the reason you also wouldn't reach an orgasm with somebody is that mentally you were not there. Physically you were there. Yes, you're feeling and whatever, but mentally your mind is just not there. And you tend to feel relaxed when you're by yourself or with someone like Ube now, Lava now. And now, are you feeling one actually now? An orgasm, do you get one?
Have you found it?
If you're watching, yes.
If you're not watching?
Exactly, man. Exactly.
No, you see, so I think it's all have to do with this. It's mind over matter.
Definitely psychological.
I hear the psychological, guys. I really, really do. And I admire you guys when you say that. And it's so nice. And I can let go and I can let live and I can tell that I'm free, And maybe sometimes I would have been inspired by, a drink or two. And it's still, do you know what I mean? Like, I still won't. And I still can't.
You've had an orgasm before,
Of course.
just not with a partner.
I have with a partner before.
Okay, so there's
Many times. It's just it kind of stops somewhere
That was
down
a
the
guy
line.
who ruined it
He
for
really
Tepi.
did. He took my clit with him. Oh, I
God.
hate him.
how do you fetch
Bring my clit back, dog.
Bring it back.
So there's
Hashtag.
something called an orgasmia, which is you not being able to have an orgasm, but there's different levels to it. And secondary anorgasmia is when you've had one before, but you're unable to get it again. So you might not ever have another orgasm
say that.
with another person.
I rebuke that.
You can rebuke
Yo,
it.
don't say that.
You can pray for it. But the fact that you have experienced it before means you're constantly reaching. It's almost like that first high. And your body is trying to experience what you've already experienced before. So it's hard to kind of almost replicate it.
And you know what the difficult part of it is? And I don't know, ladies, if you also have the same thing. Men have a position where even if it's tough times, they know if I can flip you around, I'll get there.
Yeah.
So I had that. So I knew with this one, in 2 seconds, babes, I will be as weak and I will get there. Turn me around now, babes. I will be doing it. 40 minutes later, I'll be like...
100%. It's
Well,
it's
this is
just
ox.
you've conditioned your mind to this works, and now your body's saying, yeah, but there's other things that can work. So it takes a lot more exploration, experimenting. Also think about what kind of gets you immediately horny. I'm one for danger. If you say I shouldn't be having sex with this person and I shouldn't be having sex here, I'm doing it. And that's what gets me.
Then please don't give your husband a blowjob. Are you going to do it tonight?
But here's a question also, Tebi, I'm sorry if you feel like you're in a therapist room. But I'm thinking, could it also be maybe it's not a sexual trauma in the form of a rape, but the heartbreak that you experienced with the last person that you were with, that you had an orgasm with? Could maybe that be the problem? Maybe you need therapy.
The subconscious association.
You're absolutely right. And I don't even take it lightly. And I think for me, the biggest part is I stayed with him for a very long time, even after I lost my orgasm, where he was concerned, right?
Oh.
And even when I was with him, I'd still lost my orgasm. So for him, it took his power away. Because it was always but you always did. You always got there, and it would frustrate him. So instead of the 45 that he'd go for an hour. Because now he's like, your body's not responding to me the very same way it used to. 100%. And I agree with that. And even at times, I'd even get frustrated. Even I would try to get there, because now I'm like, okay, this is not about you. Now I'm trying to make it about me. And even when I'm trying to make it about me, it's still not happening. You know what I mean? So it would really, really frustrate me in that sense. I don't take it lightly at all. Let's move on. Squirting. Hands up for someone or anybody who's ever squirted.
Once.
Squirting is not necessarily an orgasm. Let's talk squirting.
Okay. What should we talk about it?
Let's talk all of it. The sexual pleasure that comes into squirting. I suppose also for men thinking that squirting is pee, which, I mean, they're not 100% wrong. But, you know, there's that element of differentiating the two, even for me as a woman.
I still don't know the difference.
Am I releasing pee or am I squirting?
So I have made myself squirt, and I've tasted it.
Hey,
and it has a different. I taste myself regularly, because if someone else is going to go down there, I need to know 100%.
Like.
And obviously men would never do that, but I feel like I can always see the consistency is different. The color is different. It's a little murkier than urine. And the squirt comes from the actual vagina, whereas urine comes from the urethral. So they come from two different places, but you can feel your muscles. So I always say I went to, you should actually have her on your show. Her name's Unforgettable Confab, and she basically does practical lessons, like 30-minute online lessons on how to, make someone squirt or how to finger correctly. And she always says use a come hither motion, because people don't know that your clitoris actually extends inside the vagina itself, or the vulva itself. So when you are stimulating the inside of, come hither.
Do you see that? A good description?
When you are stimulating the inside of the clitoris.
Don't grind our clits, please.
Please, no DJing over here.
Yo. SK. But sometimes it's necessary, my friend. Sometimes it's a necessary one. But anyway.
Yeah, but you have to have mastered everything else. Don't just go straight for the jugular. So that come hither motion and the soft stimulation of the internal clitoris is what will make you squirt. Of course, in conjunction with the outer clitoris stimulation. So that the two together, you're kind of pressing on the clitoris all-encompassing, and it is more stimulating than just the outside area. And that's why generally you either come from either penetration as well as clit stimulation, or being fingered, or with a toy. So they come from different places, and you as a woman can feel. When you're peeing, yes, you are using your pelvic floor to do so, but it's coming out of a different space, so you know what muscles react to what. So in a sexual context, when you are squirting, it's almost like your inner walls are enclosing in, and it's releasing fluid. Whereas when you're peeing, it's almost like you're opening it up to release that pee. I don't know how else to, to describe the different muscle movements or the different muscle reactions to kind of note the difference. But again, you'd have to just feel the consistency, the taste, all of that to know the actual difference, because they can seem similar.
Take notes, gents.
So you said you've squirted once?
Once.
How was that? How was that experience?
It was awkward.
Why?
Because at that time I didn't know whether I just peed or I squirted. It was awkward.
And there's also that embarrassment, right, that comes with the squirting, that yes, it could be sexual pleasure and it could feel like sexual pleasure, except there's the aftermath where we get off the bed and it's like, are you going to sleep on that side of the bed? I know you're sleeping on that side.
Nice. It was very nice. I take it I squirted, not peed. It was
so
very
why won't
nice.
you explore it again?
I just won't allow my body to get to that, because every time it gets to that point, I remember that feeling and I hold back. So it's probably that. It's psychological.
Hey.
But also there's people who just have skills. There was a guy who literally was like, I'm going to make you squirt in less than 10 seconds. And I was like, oh no, please, you're out here on your high horse. I think he got to 4. And his hand was like, he actually, oh my gosh, I'm about to expose myself. He is. He owns a sex toy company. He's very well versed. No, but like he also understands the female anatomy. And I think because of that, he's very like educated in that regard. So he knows exactly what buttons to push. Where it would take someone else kind of feeling their way around, he knows, okay, it's this finger motion, boom, done.
This conversation is making me want to go to explore right now. Honestly.
You don't have to go to explore. You see there at the back there?
At home, guys, at home.
You mentioned about the guy that understanding the female anatomy, and I think it's very important if we're talking sexual health and sexual pleasure, that we invest in wanting to know what pleases a woman and my woman in particular, and what pleases a man, because sexual pleasure is not only just about penetration, you know, and just getting there. It's a whole biology of things, you know, the touch, the seeing, the I miss you that gets you there, so that when you see him, it's like, oh, let's get it on type of thing.
Sensory stimulation,
And
music.
that's fact, because sex is not, it doesn't have to be physical.
At all.
Intimacy doesn't have to be physical.
At all.
You know, how many of us phone sex here? How many of us have
Not anymore.
orgasmed from phone sex?
So are you stimulating yourself whilst it's happening? Obviously.
But he's obviously here narrating what he would be doing.
Yeah.
Nah.
And honey,
Monati omo.
I don't know why you have
very
not tried.
jealous.
It really is a beautiful feeling. And when you both arrive at the same time over the phone and you can hear you
Yo,
both
Bona.
heavy breathing, my girl.
I'm very jealous.
Okay, that's next
My phone is
level.
charging. After this, it's going down, dog.
But you know what? Same with pleasure. You can't effectively communicate how you want to be pleasured if you don't even know the basics of your vagina. So I always tell my clients, go home and label the different parts of a vulva. To even know that the vulva is the whole thing and the vagina is just the canal, people don't know that. Like, we are even calling it wrong. We don't have the necessary tools or language to communicate. I want you to play with my inner labia versus my outer labia. I want you to play with my inner clitoris versus my, you know, you didn't even know there is an inner clitoris. So until you're able to even just draw it, do a basic drawing and say this, how are you supposed to effectively communicate?
I used to take a mirror and just sit there and put a mirror like this and see it and touch it and see it and see how it reacts. And
Why
worked
are
for
we
me.
so scared, guys, to be looking at our vaginas and without judgment, right? Because we're being told what a vagina is and what it isn't. And we're being told by people who don't have vaginas, which is the funny part. And when we look, we're judging ourselves. Oh, my lips are too, long. Oh, my vagina's too dark. Oh, the hair. Oh, which is all what a normal vagina should be looking like. But there's these things and these trends that are coming to pass that really make us hate how our vaginas look and how our vaginas smell. And a big part of our pleasure comes in accepting how we look.
100%.
And do you know what I mean? And just feeling your vagina. Do we get to a point where we feel it from the front to the back? Do you know what I mean? Like, do we really play with ourselves? And I'm not even talking for sexual pleasure, but I'm just talking about like just generally feeling and knowing what, those folds your vagina has. You know, that okay, maybe my vagina is, maybe my clit is a bit, is protruding more than the regular person. And those are the things that we should be embracing in order for me to be able to be embraced.
A female once complimented my vagina, ne?
wait.
And the way, and the way she did it, it's a much older female to start off, ne? Had just shaved and, nicely done. And it was almost as if she's like, oh, you can shave like that and it looks like that. I'm going to try that. And when I mean much older, I mean much older. Like, she was like blown away. Now I'm looking at she was blown away at how my vagina looked. And I think it's also going back to what we were saying with the Dr. Kim on the last episode, that we need to stop We need to start normalizing speaking about things that are normal and stop putting a stigma on them. Because, I mean, a vagina is normal. Every woman has a vagina. So how it should look, nobody knows how a vagina should look, but it's uniquely made. Therefore, be it big lips, dark, light, it's you, baby. Embrace yourself.
But what are you comparing it to?
Exactly.
Like, we don't have representations, like, let's say at school, where they're saying these are a whole bunch of different vaginas and this is how they can look, so that you can even say, oh, I would fit more into that category, so I'm normal, because it's one way. And if we also think about porn, depending on what the category is, people are like, oh, I like fat pussy lips. Now you're like, okay, but mine aren't fat, does that make sex more enhanced? Does it heighten the sensitivity? What does that do? So you start to feel inadequate because there's an example that you are not.
It should look like.
But there are different types of porn that are also trying to highlight that now, where it's more realistic. It's people writing their stories and saying, can you go and find someone who is not the typical stereotypical representation of what a vagina would look like or what someone in porn would look like, and can they replicate the story that I've written realistically, so it's more erotic than pornographic. And that makes you feel like, oh, I can see myself in that.
I love that.
Let's talk about rimming. Why do men have a problem with rimming?
What's that, babe?
Rimming.
Wow. It's
You and
it's
many other
analingus. It's basically oral but with your anus. Putting your tongue around the anus and inside.
And not all men have an
Not
issue with
all
it.
men.
I think also.
But as soon as you approach that,
Oh,
Listen to the James Bond.
you mean when they're the victim?
when they're the victim,
When they're the victim, and you're like,
it shouldn't even be a victim per se, because there's so much pleasure that comes with rimming.
that's what I'm trying to find out. Why like a lot of men are not comfortable with us coming closer to the hole.
because it
Why?
when any man is stimulated from the anus, what does it mean? That they're gay. So
They feel.
They feel like
100%, because that's what has been presented to them.
yeah.
So when you're going in that area, it's like, oh yeah, come on.
What's up?
Like I'm not that kind of guy,
play for Scaboozles here.
100%. But I think it also depends on your levels of trust. Because a man who is completely masculine, allowing you into that space just shows the level of trust he has for you. And then it's a pleasure that he's feeling and being like, oh, wow, actually, this is something that I can enjoy. And it doesn't emasculate me. It doesn't take away from the fact that I'm still the head of the household, or I'm still, the one to protect you, or the breadwinner, whatever the case is. There's so many different factors associated with anal that men are just like, and it takes some time.
The
Once
gay
you
now.
go there, they never go back. They also just like,
100%. They got their legs up.
So you don't know what you're missing.
You're missing
Don't wait
out.
till you tried it. I'm a voyeur.
What's a voyeur?
I love watching people have sex, right? I love hearing about it when we're having sex. It's not for everybody. There's some men who can't channel themselves in that way.
Sorry, say what you said. You love hearing about it when you are having sex.
Yes. So tell me how you had sex with
someone
her
else.
and how she enjoyed it. Oh, my darling.
Really?
High levels.
Chan. If I'm on that level. I like watching people have sex. I definitely like hearing people's sexual experiences because I can almost imagine them and their character and their body in that scenario. But I dated a guy, and it was my first polyamorous relationship, but I was the polyamorous one and he was monogamous, and he was just kind of accepting it because he wanted to be with me.
Still count as polyamory if the other one is not agreeing?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
no. They obviously have to agree, but they don't have to practice it.
Okay.
Yes. So he was agreeing that I could do it, but he wasn't going out and having sex with various people.
But their relationship status is.
Yeah. So it just became a bit tricky because he was a voyeur like you, and he wanted to hear about all the other men I was sleeping with, but whilst he was inside me. So now I start thinking about those other experiences. So I was taking myself out of that current experience, and it didn't make me feel like I was connecting with him because I'm still thinking about other people that I'm having sex with, which are all isolated incidents. So continue.
So if you are having sex, let's say I'm having sex with Bene and then I'm thinking about someone else, what does that make me? Like,
I'm kidding.
maybe probably thinking about the experience with someone else. Or thinking about how I wish I could be someone else. I'm laying there as Khumuto, but I'm putting your face on my face. Something like that. What
You
you
imagining
human.
somebody else while you're having sex?
I'm
Is that what you
imagining
mean?
either myself to be someone else or him being someone else.
I mean, it's human. There's different things that will trigger a memory of when you had sex with someone else. And it may not continue throughout the whole sexual encounter, but it might be but for a moment that you're like, oh yeah, that guy did it like that. And then you quickly come back to the moment. I think it's always about being present. It's about being aware and conscious of your surroundings. And I always say use your 5 senses. What are you smelling in the moment? What are you hearing? Is there music? Where are they touching you? How does that make you feel? So if you are able to kind of do some like therapy mid-coitus, then you kind of make sure that you're centered and in the moment and present. And it kind of avoids you thinking about other people, but you can bring it back if you do because you're human.
I'm thinking of a thing. Imagine now if you are in that trance or you're thinking about someone else and then he shouts, Brenda. And then
Hi, uzang explain after about no Brenda. You'll cover later.
See, there's a quick one just before time runs out. When it comes to sexual pleasure, we've been so conditioned, socially so, right? And I think a big part of it is where the constraint of the sexual pleasure comes from, is all these things that we see on social media, all these things that we see on porn, all these things that we hear and how we were taught about sex, you know? I mean, if we look at some parts of Africa where they circumcise women, you know, and that's purely, quite honestly, to take away their sexual pleasure. If you're going to circumcise or take my clit, you're taking away my sexual pleasure because that's exactly what my clit is made for, right?
The organ that's there for that.
Do you know what I mean? Because it holds so much pleasure in just this one tiny thing. And when we think of all these other things that go around in the world and all these things that we've had, how do we seek pleasure in trauma? Number one, I've had trauma. I need to now go back and have sex. Not need to, but I choose to. Be it with a partner, be it with someone that that I trust now. But unfortunately, my body's still a little bit tense. You know, which happens.
So I've got a rape support group.
Yeah.
Which kind of focuses on this. And we have weekly conversations where we're learning to manage triggers. And I think in order to regain back your power, you have to know what triggers you so that you can leave that behind. So you are taking control of that trigger and not the other way around. So, for example, there's the second instance, sorry to get deep, when I got raped, it was with a friend and I froze. Because for me, this is definitely not happening. My friend of 15 years would never do this. And after the fact, I thought, oh, I wish I had fought. I wish I had done something. But in the moment, I was unable to. And I always say to my girls, go for a martial arts class. Because they teach you instinct, and your instinct is to fight or flight, as opposed to freeze. And once that's in your conscious and your psyche, you feel like in any situation, even if someone is talking to you, you will know exactly what it is that you want to do. So small things like that to be able to kind of reintegrate yourself into society. Also knowing, yes, you trust the person that you are with, but trust is also very different to vulnerability. Am I able to completely let myself go with this person? Have I been honest to say, these are the things that trigger me, and are they caring enough and considerate enough to ensure that those triggers are not present in your sexual experience? So if you got gang raped and it was in an alley, this person will maybe need the lights on. something as simple as needing to see your surroundings will obviously influence the way you engage with your partner. So it is about, speaking, which isn't always easy. But if you do trust the person and you're getting to a point where you want to reintegrate yourself into society sexually, then you need to be able to accept what has happened and let it go as a moment thing and not something that translates or directly affects every other aspect of your life.
Do we also talk about the sexual trauma that comes with how sex was conditioned to us when we were kids? Right? I spoke to Dr. Tlaling the one day. She has a term for it. I just can't remember what it is. And she said there's a patient of hers that brings her daughter. And she says, I need her to have kids. She does not want to have kids. She's married. She just does not want to have kids. No, I lied. She wasn't married. She just said she just doesn't want to have kids. She's got a long-term relationship and I need her to have kids. That's why I'm bringing her to you, Tlaling. Just show me how she's going to do it. And she said, let me have a conversation with her alone. She tenses, her body tenses because of how her mom taught her about sex. The very same person who said, you shouldn't be doing this, you don't do this, this is not how you do it, you shouldn't, is the very same person who's now saying,
Do all those things.
have sex. I need a child now. I need you to have a child. And let's be honest, how you get taught and conditioned about sex really does transpire or really does show in your everyday life where sex is concerned. How free you are, how open you are to even any other ideas where sex is concerned, how you can just let yourself go, and how you see sex generally, how you see the next person, the person you're having sex with yourself. Those are the things that we get conditioned, unfortunately, and we don't see it, And I love that you guys have children, in fact, so you guys can think of the sex talk that you're going to have with your children, that they lies such a huge responsibility because you're not only, yes, I'm sure you're not saying your son must go have sex now. I mean, that's ridiculous. But later on, the way you opened up the channel for sex, the way you've spoken to them about sex, will definitely, do you think, in fact, well, I believe so, but how do you feel when this is a conversation that was had when you were a kid? This girl was saying, I can't do it anymore because my mother traumatized me where sex was concerned. Now she wants me to go have sex.
100%. I think there's also tools to dealing with the sex talk with children. There's a really amazing lady, I'll also give you her contact details, who actually does coaching for parents and in schools. Because when a child is inquisitive or questioning of anything to do with sex, usually we say, no, don't talk about that. So you've already consciously made it so that this is not something to be spoken about. This is a bad thing. This is what only adults do. But you're seeing it. It's all over social media. It's all over music videos. It's everywhere. So how is something that's so bad so prominent in all of the things that I am seeing? When a person asks, if you say, can we talk about this later, make sure you get back to actually having that conversation and always ask what they do know about it so that you're coming from a point of, okay, they only know this. Because not sharing any information at all can be detrimental to their future sex lives, but also oversharing can be very traumatizing too.
Yeah.
And there's different levels of discernment and emotional intelligence that children have depending on their age, their exposure, their upbringing. So you have to be very specific to each case. It has to be by a case scenario. But again, parents, I think we are now at a stage where we don't have to do what our parents did. I was very privileged to have parents who had children's illustration books where we were talking about sex, and it was like, okay, mommy laid an egg. What is an egg, And it's just very relaxed, light-hearted conversation to understand how the production of a child comes about. But it wasn't ever a taboo topic.
Yeah.
But that's not the case, especially in the African home. So when we as parents have to just change that narrative so that when we are engaging, their children's children are also getting a healthy conversation around sex so it doesn't negatively affect their sex lives when they start having sex.
Ladies?
Agreed. 100% agreed. I also see it in my son. at school, they're also learning about the human body. I mean, they're still young, but obviously it's like, the boobs, your private parts, and you were in your mommy's tummy and whatnot. So he would come home and say, Mama, was I in your tummy when I was a baby? Was I sleeping? And I'm like, Mama, you're going to have a baby. When are you going to have a baby again? And me saying, yes, you were in my tummy. And I wait for him to give me the next question to see where his mind is at. And I see also, no, he just wanted to know, was he in my tummy or not? And that's where it ends. But should then the conversation lead on to something else, I will take it further. Because now at home, he speaks freely about, oh my gosh, Mama, Auntie Banwan is pregnant. She's going to have a baby. And I'm not saying, no. Don't say that. It's normal. We can't shield children from anything that's not even harmful to them, because it's actually creating more wisdom for them to be able to have meaningful conversations and to be able to understand things a little bit better.
Lovely conversation. Parting shots. Ladies, just before we close off, Aya has already raised his hands several times to me.
Yes.
Say, Qima.
Kopa o le rima hle. Le tlohele ho re tshaba. Stop it. We wanna go
Told
there.
you.
We wanna go there.
Told you.
I just wanna see where,
Like,
like,
see something.
I wanna see something. Yeah.
Love that.
From me, I would say heal before you go.
Oh, church girl.
Love that.
Boom.
Love that. Boom. Drops mic.
Yes. Heal
Sure.
before you go.
Lindy,
That's nice.
last
I
words
mean,
from
what do you say after
What do you
that? She's got it spot on. Also, and in healing, dig a little deeper than the surface. It's okay to look back at how you were spoken to about sex to try and understand why you may or may not be able to orgasm. Look back at, as far back as childhood, university, and take it in stages of your life, because there are different things that might have got you to the point where you're at that you might have considered a blind spot. So
There we go. It's been an awesome episode. Thank you so much. Ladies, gents who are watching, you can definitely leave your comments down below as well if you're struggling, with sexual health, and you're struggling also with generally the pleasure when it comes to sex, because it should be a pleasurable thing. This is, of course, if you are of age, and you shouldn't be watching this podcast if you're not. But generally, this is we can joke about it and we can laugh about it, but sex is really quite an important part, more so when you're having it. And it should be pleasurable for you. It shouldn't get to a point where it's a schlep, it's a job, it's painful. And we should also be able to identify, consent. And that's a conversation that we'll definitely have one day, is consent, and enthusiastic consent at that. Thank you so much to Via Health. You can definitely go on their social media handles. It's Via Health ZA on all social media platforms. Lindy R, my sexual wellness coach. Thank you. Brand ambassador of Via as well. We really, really appreciate you. And we're hoping to get you back in the country again very soon.
got you, girl.
My name is Tepi.
I'm Black Velvet. Church girl.
Episode 15. This was On the Table.
Boom.